matter. Today's edition is Making Your Money Work for You. I'd like to start with a word of scripture. Maybe many people don't know out there that the Bible gives us so much guidance on investment. If you look in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 11, the first 2 verses, I'll read out for you. Send your grain overseas, for after many days you will get a return. Divide your merchandise amongst 7 or 8 investments, for you do not know what calamity may happen on earth. And verse 6, sow your seed in the morning, and do not stop working until the evening, for you do not know which activity will succeed, whether this one or that one, or whether both will prosper equally. That's just some of what the Bible says about investment. Today we have with us Nimi Akinkugbe, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Bestman Games Limited. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Yeah. And it's about people wanting to do better for themselves. Some say rich. For you to get rich, and therefore to be able to play about, you need to invest. And basically the price of getting rich, they say, is to invest upfront. Nimi, you've been doing this, you've been teaching a lot. You've had a 23-year banking career, BSc, an MBA, and an author of a new book, The A to Z of Personal Finance.
Right, yeah.
I also know, because I read it from time to time, you write your regular columns in Business Day, in Punch, and you featured on CNBC Africa and various other programs. Absolutely, but don't forget, I've known you for many years, Nimi, so there you go, you can't escape, and you're married to one of my good friends too. So we're very, very lucky to have you with us today, Nimi, and what we'd like you to do is to tell us about you. How did you come into all this investment, and what is investment all about?
I would say my whole sort of chart, my path of personal finance, probably from childhood. Yes. My parents were very, very meticulous about pocket money and allowances and holiday jobs and earning and developing our talents. It was really something that they took very seriously. My father went as far as giving us interest. He would borrow from us. I hope my sisters and brothers aren't listening, because I was the most successful because he could borrow from me, and I got this interest, you know. So we just sort of learnt about saving and investing from a very, very early age. And then, of course, 23 years in the banking industry, that was remarkable. I came across huge successes, and I also came across people that were not so successful. You know, people who'd spoilt their children and destroyed their ability to be independent. I came across people who retired and then found they had retired and had no plan, no savings, no pension, nothing. Came across people who, a lady who was not working at home either, lost her husband and had no clue where anything was. So I just found that these experiences made me realize that there was a whole need to provide information. And you find, and Malala, you must realize it as well, there's so much you see in the papers about finance that's really talking above people's heads. Yes. Unless you're a finance professional, you know, you tend to just gloss through because it's not simplified in a very basic way. So I was invited by Genevieve magazine about 15 years ago, I think it was, to start. That was my first column.
I used to read that.
Yes, to sort of simplify, just break things down into a very basic way, make personal finance a way of life. And I've just found that that's been so fulfilling, just trying to educate the public in a very simplified way.
And I find it quite interesting what you said, that you learned this from a very early age, your father.
Yes.
So frankly speaking, all of us that are parents should be teaching our kids very early on,
Absolutely, very early on.
Yes.
The minute you can count, you should be able to start to understand the basic concepts.
Yes.
It's not taught in school, unfortunately. The CBN here is trying to put something in place for the curriculum. I think the British curriculum now, for 2015, they'll start to have some basic instruction on financial literacy. Otherwise, you just go through life and you start making the mistakes and you get into debt. I remember my children, first day in university, you're given credit of £3,000. Extraordinary. Without having any idea of how to...
lots of people find themselves in debt.
In debt from that age, yes. I had to warn them and say, don't you dare sign on to any of it.
I actually started teaching my kids as well. 2 Christmases ago, my kids started their first business. So they started making...
How old are they?
Now 8 and 5, but then she was 6 and the other was 4. And so what we did was they started making bracelets with virtues like faith and names. And then they started selling to their aunties. And within a week, they got an order to make some for a birthday party. And in 2 weeks that Christmas, they made about 30,000
Wow.
naira.
That's just brilliant.
So I
Amazing.
told them, put it in your piggy bank.
Yes.
We needed to give to church. I forgot about the investment part, but like that, they already understand how to make money, how
Yes,
that you have to
yes.
give back,
That's
you
very
have
I
to
think
save.
that's just absolutely
That is very
wonderful.
good.
That's a really good example. And what that does, by the time they start opening a bank account and you teach them about investing, you can imagine where they'll be, and just understanding hard work and learning how to earn as well.
Okay.
Great.
So beyond teaching our kids, so we teach our kids, the Bible says, teach a child the way he should go. When he's old, he won't depart from it. So besides inculcating this in them and they grow up, so what? What's the purpose of investing?
Well, investing is you're trying to make your money work for you. It's so important. If you save, you put money in the bank, you'll get a minimal interest rate. It hardly ever covers inflation. But investing, you're putting money aside in assets that are going to grow or give you income. So it's something that we should all be doing. It's something that everyone should start to invest from from their first salary, literally. And the chances of success are enormous if you start from a very early age because of that long time frame.
Over time, they
Over
should
time,
grow.
it's yes.
Because when you talked about, of course, a key purpose of investing is putting money in assets that can grow.
Yes.
Surely the selection of those assets is very important because the
Yes.
value of an asset could go up, it could go down, and that's then the notion of risk.
Yes.
So how do people know what the right thing to invest in
I think
is?
we should start with, as you said, risk. I think I think risk is probably the most fundamental concept when it comes to investing.
So explain it for our viewers. What is risk?
Risk is the possibility of losing your money. And in investing, it is so important to realize you can actually lose all your money. So, but the thing about risk is the greater the risk, the greater the return. But sometimes we take too much risk. We've got to look at yourself. How old are you? Can you afford to invest for the long term? What about your stage in life? Do you have young children to educate, school fees to pay? Are you looking to buy a property? What sort of dependents do you have? We have huge extended families.
Yes.
So I've come across many young people who are paying for their parents' bills, educating their siblings. You've got to look at all those issues. How long do you have to invest? Can you afford to lose any of the money? Are you someone that's very nervous? Are you risk averse? You've got to look at your personality, your behavior, because I mean, if the stock market crashes, are you going to be totally panicked? Those are very important things. At the same time, you can't put all your eggs in one basket. You have to diversify. So you won't go and put all your money in the stock market. The major asset classes, you need to have some cash for emergencies. You know what it's like? I mean, 2 days ago, I had to replace my car tire, or your generator is not working, or the roof is leaking. You need to have cash that you have
saving for a rainy day.
Saving for a rainy day. Before you can even invest, I think that is critical. I don't think anyone should be investing without having savings first. Okay, because you'd have to break your investment possibly at a loss if it has not actually grown, over time.
But aren't savings and investment two sides of the same coin?
They're different. Saving, I think, would be for the short term. Saving in the money market, treasury bills, certificates of deposit, bank deposits. That's money that you want to set aside that you can call on, liquid assets that you can call upon at any time. Investing is for the longer term. And back to investing, you have to have a goal. I just find that people just dive into investments without having, what's the purpose? What are you investing for? Are you investing to you want to stop renting and you want to own your own home in 5 years? Are you investing for your retirement? Do you have very young children now and you want to invest for their education, which can be very expensive, particularly if you're educating them abroad? So you've got to have an idea of what you need the money for, and that will help you determine which of the assets you should consider.
Okay, let's talk more about the assets.
Yes.
Because, I mean, you've mentioned stock market.
Yeah.
Maybe some people don't quite know what it is. You invest in the stock market.
Yes.
We talked about children paying their parents' bills. Maybe the parents don't have a good pension plan.
Yes.
What other types of instruments are there out there? I mean, back in the days, I remember my first investment in this country was investing in the post office. We used to have post office
Savings
books.
accounts, yes.
Savings accounts. We don't even have a post office anymore
We do.
in this country. Do we
We
still?
absolutely do, and it works.
Good God.
Please, yes,
Okay.
it's
So tell us.
excellent. Let's talk about the post office. I don't know about the post office savings account, but the post office works, and they're polite, and they're diligent, and they're experienced. Yes, you can actually post a letter and get a wonderful stamp and post it, and it arrives. I hope that all the viewers know that.
I'll make no comment.
Because
I'll make no comment. I received a letter a couple of days ago that was posted from somewhere overseas about 3 months ago. That's been my experience.
No, it works, and the private mail bag works. Okay. And I don't want any e-Christmas cards. I want a posted Christmas card, so please note that.
All right.
Yes, no, there's savings accounts, of course. And those are really good, but I find, when your child is born and you have the naming ceremony, a lot of parents put all that money in a savings account. I just think, what a waste. The child is not going to use that savings account for years. That could be in a mutual fund for many years, because you can invest jointly with children in the mutual fund.
And what is a mutual fund?
A mutual fund is a pooled investment. Most people don't have the time, inclination, or expertise to choose their own stocks themselves. So there's this wonderful investment called a mutual fund, where people's investments in very small denominations, in Nigeria it's the lowest I think is 5,000 naira. You can put them 5,000, 10,000, 50,000. And
every month, I guess.
As often as you wish. It would be fantastic if you could invest on a regular basis, but many people can't afford to. The idea is to pool these funds and invest in the stock market, in money market instruments, in bonds. And because you've pooled the investments, it's almost as though you're getting the return you would get if you were a significant investor. Okay, so investing for children like that, so for your birthdays, instead of giving them just a PlayStation or a Barbie doll, you could invest in stocks as well and let that grow over time. So mutual funds I find to be the most attractive. It's less risky. You've got professional management, so you're not having to choose the stocks yourself. It's very diversified. I love what you said in the Bible passage, how it said you have to invest in many different things.
Because you don't know which one's going to come through.
You don't know which one will come through. Some won't do so well, some will lose money and so on. So it's great to be diversified. The mutual funds provide that diversification. So that's probably one of the great things to do. Real estate, of course, fantastic investment, huge capital outlay usually. But nowadays you have the off-plan opportunities where you don't have to put all the money down all at once.
And you can even pool with your
You can pool with friends and invest together. So it's there's huge opportunities, and it's particularly exciting being in Nigeria and in Africa, because this is where there's so much growth about to happen. So the worst thing, the biggest risk to me, is sitting on the sidelines doing nothing.
Okay, let's talk about that growth, because investment is very much about growth. And when you put your money, whether it's in a mutual fund that is investing in real estate, is investing in stocks and shares or bonds or whatever,
bills,
it's over time that hopefully the value grows. So you talked about Nigeria being a country about to, literally speaking, explode. That's what I hear, because I'm also in the financial services industry myself.
Do you feel that yourself?
Well,
I
yes.
just feel that we have huge prospects, and people just shouldn't miss that boat. So it's to be focused and look at what your goals are, and you're here. So take advantage of the information that there is.
But timing and risk
Yes.
still lurk in the background.
It's a huge thing. It's so important to understand the risk.
Yes.
So what are you investing for? I mean, if you have school fees to pay, 2 weeks' time, school fees is due, you cannot put that money in the stock market.
Sure.
Stock market money should be for long term.
Yes.
I actually feel, people say over 3 years. For me, stock market is 5 years and beyond. I feel I'm very conservative. So unless you're someone that's speculating, but that's very, very risky. That's very high risk.
All right. We'll take a break right there, and we'll be right back and continue this conversation. I hope that you're learning a lot about investing and that you're already being blessed by this program. We'll see you in a short while. Please stay tuned. Hello viewers, and welcome back to The Heart of the Matter. We're talking today with Nimi Akinkugbe on the subject of making your money work for you. And also with us is my co-host, Omilola. Over to you.
Thank you. From a young person's perspective, I find that a lot of people do not invest because they feel that they have to have arrived, or they have to have made a lot of money to be able to invest.
Yeah.
What would you say about that?
That's a major problem for young people, feeling that they can't invest with small amounts. What I say is, investing is about sacrifice. So it's so important to start to invest young. Now, when you wait till the end of the month, if you're fortunate enough to be employed, and hope that there'll be money left at the end of the month, there's never enough. There's always too much month and not enough money at the end of the month. So it's so important to pay yourself first. That's what it's called, paying yourself first. That means as soon as you have your salary, have this part of it move out into savings and investing.
Or even a direct debit as well.
But with a direct debit or standing order, that's the best way. So it's automated. I really believe in automating your savings, so that it's already gone before you think about it. I'm paid on the 25th, and I have a direct debit into a mutual fund on the 28th of every month. So whether it's automatic. So no matter how bad the month is, that has gone. So you're paying your tithes. People do that so well. It would be so nice if you took another 10%
for yourself.
minimum for yourself. And for young people that live at home, they don't have many bills, they're not paying for electricity, utilities and so on, they can afford to do much more than 10%.
Actually, can we even also talk about delayed gratification
Yes,
versus instant
That's what it
satisfaction?
is. We tend to find that we want, I think it's more about peer pressure, keeping up with the Joneses. I always
social
tell
media.
people the Joneses are broke and they're trying to keep up with everyone else. So if you don't have goals, it all starts from having goals. If you have goals and you're working towards something, I must move out of my parents' house within the next 2 years. I want to get married and start my own family. I want to buy a new car. You're working towards something. A lady contacted me last week, and it was such a devastating email. She's earning 318,000 naira every month, but in the last 6 months she's done Ashoebi, had 4 friends getting married, and she was a bridesmaid and had to do Ashoebi. She spent 50,000 naira on each of those outfits. Wow. She's had to spend 250,000 naira on her sister's wedding. She's had to lend her parents money. She's now very depressed, completely broke, because she's 29 years old, going on 30, and she said she doesn't have 1 naira in the bank. Wow. And she's got a job. Many people don't have jobs. She's got a decent salary, but she's just felt so overwhelmed with this pressure, and that's what we need to address. People have just got to be strong and have their own goals. So she should, if her siblings can't afford to get married, they should downsize the wedding or postpone, you know what I mean? But she cannot afford to take on this much stress. And this is what a lot of young people find themselves in this situation. It's just the peer pressure keeping up. And then you suddenly wake up and you've got absolutely nothing. She's got no insurance. She's got, if anyone gets ill, you have that problem. She's got she can't see a way forward. And that's just counseling her and telling her, as we were saying, direct debit. She can afford to put 30,000 aside automatically every month.
She doesn't have to
She's doing
buy
her tithe.
Ashoebi.
She doesn't have to buy
She
Ashoebi.
doesn't have to wear what you have.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So it's a major problem, and the more we get this message out for people to realize that you absolutely don't have to be in that situation.
Yeah. Can we also talk about planning for retirement even at a young age?
Yes,
looking at pensions.
Yes, most young people feel that they're so young and retirement is decades away. Why should they bother about retirement? And the fact of the matter is, we have this wonderful pension scheme in Nigeria. I think it's one of the most sophisticated, and it's very, very impressive. So, like, for example, when I was leaving my corporate life, the last year, I doubled my pension contribution because I wanted to fast track my savings. Mm-hmm. You can look at your stage or your age and decide that you want to increase your contribution and have additional savings. It's just a good way to protect yourself as well. You don't know how long you're going to be unemployed for and so on, so it's just additional savings. And it's so important to do this. We've all come across people who've left the corporate world with all the perks and trappings and cars and all that, and suddenly you find them in retirement with nothing. Yes. And their standard of living plummets. Yes. it's a struggle to pay for their children's education and so on. So I think it's something that's very, very important.
Can we also talk about debt as well? Because there's a lot of access to debt now, credit cards, loans. But a lot of people without understanding are getting and finding themselves in heavy debt.
Yes.
What would you advise?
I think debt can be the worst thing in your financial life. It can also be a fantastic opportunity to grow your wealth. So I always look at it in terms of good debt and bad debt. If you're borrowing to buy jewelry, borrowing to go on a lavish holiday, borrowing for clothes, you're sort of, you know, losing your, to the detriment of your financial future. You're really sort of destroying your financial future. But if you're borrowing for your education, borrowing to buy a house, I even have a bit of a problem sometimes borrowing to buy a car. What type of car? Are you borrowing to buy a very expensive car or just a car to get you from A to B until you can afford to pay cash for the balance? Because the interest is very, very high. So, but I always tell people that you need to look at debt very carefully. When you start out in business, and many young people are going to be unemployed, sadly, because there just aren't any jobs. So they're going to have to become entrepreneurs. Who are you going to go to borrow money from? Friends and family. So if you're one of those people who borrow and never pay back, it is so annoying. They start dodging phone calls and I didn't get the message, or taking the back staircase and all that. You know, so it's so important. If you're owing anyone out there today and you've been dodging their calls, please call them up and pay them back, or tell them that you plan to pay them back in X number of months, because it comes back to haunt you.
Yes.
When you need to borrow, those are the people that are going to help you with your seed capital to add to what you've got to set up a business.
I mean, the message basically, Nimi, is don't borrow if you can't pay back.
If you can't pay back.
And whatever it is you think is going to be the source of paying back,
Yes.
you have to examine it carefully.
And you take it seriously, your credibility, your character, it really, really matters.
Yes. Nimi, we're running to the end of the program, and I just wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about your book, The A to Z of Personal Finance, with your good-looking self right on the picture there. I think it's amazing. Tell us about the book. What are the tips in this book?
Yes, this is a compilation of some of my favorite pieces over the last 15 years. But I put it in alphabetical order. So A for asset allocation, B for budgeting, C for conspicuous consumption or credit, D for debt. So you can sort of look at any chapter you want. I for insurance, P for pension. And it just has nuggets of the things that you should think about in all these areas. Every stage of your life, yes.
And
So
is it available in bookshops today?
yes, it's available in all the major bookshops in Quintessence, online, Jumia, Konga, Quintessence, Jazz Hall, at the airport. It's in most places. But if you go to our website, moneymatterswithnimi.com.
Moneymatterswithnimi.com.
Yes, all the stockists are listed there.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Is there an email address for people who need to contact you?
Absolutely. Info@moneymatterswithnimi.com is our
A
email
phone number
address.
you want to share with people as
Oh,
well?
I'm hopeless with the phone number.
Okay, never mind.
But for social media, we're on Instagram
Okay.
at mmwithnimi,
Okay.
on Instagram and Twitter, and Facebook as well.
Fantastic.
We
And of
have a
course,
lot.
you're CEO of Bestman Games,
That's right.
which has produced the City of Lagos edition of
Yes.
Monopoly.
We've done the Nigeria edition as well, and
As
we've
well.
just done the Calabar edition. It's
Fantastic.
absolutely stunning. Yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And this is available, I know, in all the shops.
This is
too.
available in all the shops. Yes, it is.
Okay.
Again, at our website, you could find all the information. Bestman Games, bestmangames.com. All
Okay.
the stockists are listed.
And I
there.
bet, Omi, you played Monopoly as a child too, didn't you?
Yes,
Because I did.
definitely.
And it's got wonderful lessons in personal finance.
investment, isn't it?
Earning, saving,
And
paying your
also about
taxes,
Nigeria as
salary.
well.
And it's telling you all about our own
culture.
prominent locations and
Fantastic.
iconic
Fantastic.
landmarks.
I
Well-
need to get one for my kids, actually.
Unfortunately, all good things come to an end. But thank you so much for sharing with us your words of wisdom about investment.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's our pleasure. And to my co-host, Omi Lola, thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Viewers, well, we hope you've learned a lot today about investing and that you've been mightily blessed by this program. Key messages about saving for a rainy day, especially saving for our old age through pensions. In Nigeria today, there's something like about 4.3 or so trillion naira worth of monies in pension funds, which is more or less around $25 billion equivalent. And my understanding is probably only about 40 to maybe 50% of the pensionable population are actually putting away towards their savings. That means there's tremendous scope still left for people to actually invest. So please think long and hard and seriously about this and save for a rainy day. Save for your future when we're all old and weary. And importantly, that way you don't become a burden to other people. Make sacrifices to make available the monies. Look as well as putting money aside every month. You pay 10% maybe to your tithes, 10% in investments, and perhaps 80% is what you can then spend. So stay blessed and see you again next time.